welcome back to another edition of Components Breakdown. Today we're going to take an abbreviated look at Fantasy Flight Games' newest standalone title called Blood Bowl Team Manager, the card game, which is based off the Games Workshop fantasy football miniatures game of the same name. In the game, 2 to 4 players are going to compete against one another using one of the 6 available factions over the course of a 5-week season. Each of the team managers will attempt to customize their starting decks by winning games that allow them to draft more capable star players, hire better staff, and upgrade their facilities, all in an effort to acquire the most number of fans to become the Spike Magazine Manager of the Year. Being that this is one of many titles that I plan on covering from the Gen Con 2011 release schedule, I've decided that it's best to focus and shift my attention for the next several videos to the actual reviews themselves, rather than to spend my time on the multitude of mechanics and gameplay examples that people are so accustomed to now with my series. But there's going to be a lot of coverage in the next few days and weeks ahead, not only from myself, but from a vast number of reviewers and bloggers who have likewise had the opportunity to attend and enjoy this once-a-year experience. And I promise, as I get through the multitude of titles that need reviewed from the convention, I will settle back into the normal routine of providing a more comprehensive and detailed look at games and how they play. So let's jump right into my review for Blood Bowl Team Manager, the card game. Blood Bowl was a real surprise pre-release that wasn't announced as being available for purchase until the day before the show. And being a rather vocal fan of Fantasy Flight Games in general, this was exciting news for me, as the game has had me intrigued since it was originally announced as a deck building game at last year's convention. Through the course of the game's development, though, the game has shifted from a deck builder to a now pseudo card drafting and hand management style of game that really does lend itself well to the very developed mood and theme of the miniatures game from which it was derived. Each of the game's 6 factions, although having some similar starting players and abilities that are uniform throughout the decks, really do have their own feel, with races like the Skaven being a very quick team with the ability to cycle rapidly through their deck, to the Orcs who simply like to knock people down and continually cheat in hopes of pulling off a victory. The game is also exceedingly accessible to a wide variety of player types, since it is such a simple game to sit down and learn, which may also be one of the game's initial downfalls. There's simply not that much depth and even uniqueness when developing your own individual team, since drafting is mostly luck of the draw, which can be a deterrent to some players. However, if you approach the game as a light, theme-heavy strategic card game that relies more on the tactical play of one's cards, rather than a game where the goal is to build and develop a unique and varied team through specific and very concrete choices, then players are going to experience a wonderfully exciting and most importantly fun game that plays like a 4-player game of Battle Line, which in my opinion should be an exciting prospect for any interested gamer. There were a lot of good games at Gen Con 2011 this year, and although I'm still in the process of learning those ones that I picked up, but haven't yet played or demoed, I can confidently say that after playing Blood Bowl Team Manager, the card game, over a half dozen times now, it has easily become one of the highlights of the convention for me personally. It's light and sometimes even chaotic, but it's also very simple to teach, learn, and follow along in, and most importantly, it captures that raw feeling of the Blood Bowl universe, making it one of the better and more enjoyable games of the show. Although not included at this time, I however would have loved to have seen optional variants introduced into the game that would have allowed the upgrading of one's team to be less of an exercise in chance and luck and more of one of choice. And I'm really excited to watch how the community comes up with their own variants in the future that provide a more focused team building aspect that will allow its players better control over the stars that they sign as well as the upgrades that they acquire, all of which can be done with the cards that are already included in the set. All in all though, Blood Bowl is a very solid, thematic, and enjoyable tactical card game that really does capture the essence of the fantasy football setting of the alternate Warhammer universe. So that is Blood Bowl Team Manager, the card game. I am Jeremy Salinas, and thank you very much for watching.